Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Nur Saidatun Aniza from Thesis Work based under supervision of Dr. Khairul Anwar as my thesis supervisor. So my thesis is studying on the strategies towards quality of living in transit-oriented development known as the transit recharge and transitional living. Quality of living refers to the well-being of a person in physical and psychological aspect, which categorized in 4 components of quality of life developed by the United Nations. Meanwhile, transit-oriented development or TOD is a mixed-use community that encourages people to live near transit services and to decrease dependency on driving. TOD also include the practice of developing on intensive residential land use near rail station and housing along with complementary public uses, jobs, retail and services are concentrated in mixed-use development at strategic point along the regional transit system. Taking a site in Tulang Darat, Johor Bahru, which the location is adjacent to the Johor Bahru Immigration, Custom, Quarantine and Security Complex, CIQ, it is the main transportation hub in Johor Bahru and port of entry to Malaysia on Malaysian-Singapore borders. And this site is an opportunity to study the living behaviour in transit-oriented development. So one of the main issues in Johor Bahru city centre is the urban sprawl, where the current scenario in the city has developed to a new image and transformed into new urban use to support the high density of the population. However, these demographic changes has created few issues which known as an inefficient use of land. From the site study carried out by the Vector Studio, we had identified the side effect of the sprawling is result on the single use of land, which end up being a car park, and the leapfrog phenomena, resulting on stark contrast of building height. The discontinuous urban development has set Jalan Lingkaran Dalam as invisible wall boundary that lets Tulang Darat left untouched even though it is within transit-oriented development range. The site is used as a car park for commuters and this results in unsustainable development for transit-oriented development itself, as it brings the issues on walkability, connectivity and loss of sense of place. Urban sprawl becomes serious in Johor Bahru city centre as young people flooded in the city centre mainly for working back and forth to Singapore. It is become urgent for them to survive here with limited space and expensive costs. Concurrently, the urban housing is become unaffordable for urbanities, especially young generation, to own a living space. The study shows that the mean of monthly income for young starters is nothing near affordable to own a house due to the additional living costs that they had to afford. Hence, they will end up living in the housing out of the city, which actually costs them to spend more for transportation. Meanwhile, the current housing scheme has always been known for their issues in terms of human comfort and social well-being, as the planning are lacking of leisure spaces, dedicated facilities, and safety that could give impact towards quality of living for the young generation. So this is the summarize of the issues. Basically from the issues, it had initiated the idea to redefine the strategy to include the mixed-use transit center and the transitional housing, which also known as the supportive housing, to be located within transit-oriented development to increase the quality of living for young generation and enhance efficiency of the location to make great transit-oriented places. So the aim of this research is to propose a mixed-use transitional housing for youth to enhance quality of living within transit-oriented development. The objectives are to identify the needs of overall development for young generation in transitional living and to identify the right requirement and guidelines for programs and facilities needed by the transit-oriented development, to propose design guidelines framework that highlight the architectural concept of transit-oriented development. Basically, transitional housing is a supported accommodation that provides occupancy for the people with vulnerable situation. It provides temporary tenancy for 2 to 5 years maximum with provided support services, and it acts as a stepping stone to move to permanent housing in private market. Study by the Smart Field on the importance of locating mixed-income housing near transit-oriented development has shown there will be additional benefit of creating transit-oriented housing. This could give benefits in terms of affordability, transportation, accessibility, and quality of life itself. The housing system of the transitional housing is formulated by using the trans-theoretical model, which involves the self-development. The services provided will be in terms of medical care, life skill training, and the financial assistance. By placing the housing at the intersection of the transit-oriented development, it could offer proximity to the facilities and create high urban intersection, which actually help them to reduce cost of living. First case study is example of successful supportive housing for homeless and low-income earners. The housing is developed on top of subway station. It acts as the community nodes for people in transit. It also provides basic micro-unit for the users for temporary living with sustainable housing concept. Next case study is the Folsom and Dunn. These supportive housing are applying green parking concept as initiative towards reducing vehicle usage in TOD area. It also provides the basic micro-unit layout with shared facilities for the temporary living together with the green spaces. This is few case study on the transitional housing and basically for homeless and young people and the list of facilities provided. Most of this housing is funded by the local government. So to figure out the young generation needs for their standard of living, a questionnaire was carried out among hundreds of youth residing in Johor Bahru to identify their current living condition. Based on result, most of them agree that quality of housing could contribute to good health, especially mental health. The results showed 43% of them are feeling stressed when they are at home and 34% of them saying the stress are mostly from the environment and neighborhood condition. So to ensure the quality of life, there are some activities that they wish to conduct within their housing scheme for better neighborhood condition. In the same questionnaire, the respondents also been asked on their perspective towards transitional housing. Most of them aware on the availability of the transitional housing, especially for the homeless and youth. Most of them are giving positive response towards the housing system and they are interested to join this transitional housing if given opportunity. However, they are concerned on privacy level of the mixed-use system. So the question generated from the studies is how to create a comprehensive transit-oriented housing that provide the quality of living in transit-oriented development so it can benefit the ever-changing users' need. The strategies is to apply the good design dimension for transit-oriented development to both transit intersection and the housing scheme. The design dimension of the TOD will improve the sociability among users, the connectivity at the same time creating the sense of place towards the site. A good quality of place will enhance the public participation in the mixed-use development. According to the study by the John Jacobson, the good design of transit-oriented development can be improved by achieving 3 categories of the TOD design dimension as what shown in the diagram. The design dimension category will be the process, places, and facility, and each of the category has their respective components to achieve the targeted dimension. So after achieving the design dimension, this actually helps to grow the new kind of sense of place in transit-oriented development. It is important because a good sense of place could enhance the sense of attachment between people and place. This allows people willing to spend more time to carry their activities within that area. It comes to my design strategies. First thing is the design program. It will include the few programs which include transitional housing, housing support centers, community transit centers, and commercial. The potential client for the transitional housing will be Perumahan Mampu Milik Johor, Iskandar Malaysia as the landowner, collaboration with the Johor International Youth Hub and the Think City for development center programs. Moving to design development, first diagram shows the possible massing of building with the site context according to the plot ratio. Then the building is oriented according to the minimum sun penetration for the living blocks. As the nearest node is located at neighboring context, which located the Johor HQ Cultural Hub, the public square is introduced at the building frontage to act as the gathering platform for human activities to happen, especially for the youth development program and urban activities. It also acts as the linkage connecting from the neighboring residential area to the transit zone. Then the link is created from the public plaza towards the transportation hub that acts as a pit stop for the commuters. In terms of building zoning and spaces, commercial, food court and facilities will be supporting elements for the transit linkage. It will be located in between the community development area for the first 3 floors of the building where they can share the facilities together. The development area is bring upwards to the housing at the upper part as multi-use space for the tenant activities. The location of the services area is located at the other sides of the building where facing back of the neighboring building. The housing will be provided with the multi-type choice according to the user preferences. And the interaction will be happen at the lower floors and the housing parts to increase the sociability of the users. This is the overall perspective of the Transit Research Center and Youth Transitional Housing on the upper parts. This is the view of the building from Jalan Lingkaran Dalam. From the site plan, Jalan Indira Putra will be the main ingress and egress for the building. Meanwhile, the created linkage and pedestrian pathway will be towards Jalan Lingkaran Dalam. As mentioned earlier, the first 3 levels of building will be used for the commercial and development center purposes. The management office will be located in ground floor together with the facilities such as retail, bicycle park and ride station, and urban gallery. The user will also have option to use the provided ramps to the upper levels. Moving up to the first and second floor, here will be located the spaces for the development area for knowledge transfer purposes. It will also act as the rentable spaces for other outside activities. This commercial level also provided with transit facilities such as co-working spaces, changing areas, cafeterias and retail. The upper level will be the housing unit for the transitional housing. The layout of the housing will be in linear form with provided pocket spaces in between for the interaction of the tenant. Each level also provided with communal space in form of solid and void for development activities that will be organized by the NGO. This is the interior view of the spaces provided by level where the community engagement and transit activity is happening on the first 3 floors and the communal engagement among housing tenants. As for the unit variation, there will be 4 types of unit that consist of OKU unit, single, couple and family. For the structural component, the mixed-use development will be using the reinforced concrete post and beam system. Meanwhile, for the housing part, we'll be using module design, which the intention is to allow flexibility of the unit arrangement, where there will be changes in users' preferences in terms of unit variation. This is the aerial view of the Transit Research Center and the transitional housing development in the site context. As a result, the Transit Research Center and the Youth Transitional Housing actually achieved the dimensions stated earlier by the John Jacobson, which I believe the future transit-oriented housing in transit-oriented development will be encouraged better living among young generation with the proximity towards the support services, community engagement, and most importantly, revitalize the land use of transit-oriented development with variety and complex dimension. I will end my presentation with walkthrough animation of the Transit Research Center and the transitional housing. Thank you.